What's up, guys? My name's Justin, and thank you for tuning in to the Thriving Coach Podcast.
And I'm Zane. What we try to do here is help navigate men through their relationships as they go through their work-life balance with not only their spouse, but also their kids. Seeing it from two different point of views. Justin with the 3 kids, and me starting fresh, just now about to get married.
Just like Zane said, we're here for you, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
So today, Zane got to pick the topic. But before we dive into it, let's start off just how our days started, how Easter weekend was. Did you do anything special?
Easter weekend, we literally just hung out with Kaylee's family.
Yeah.
Day. I didn't really get to see mine. They were all the way out in McKinney. We were in Wills Point. It's like a 2-hour drive. I wasn't doing that day.
We were out of town, and it was the first time that I haven't been to church on Easter. And I think my whole life.
For real?
Yeah, because even in college, we never played on Easter, so we would find a church like that day or in that town because I went to different colleges. But yeah, I think it was the first time ever. It was really weird. But it was nice to get away with the family and everything. And obviously, we talked about the Lord and like.
This was probably the first Easter where we didn't go to church either.
Yeah.
We were out with her parents' chickens. She's got like 10 new chicks, and so we were dealing with all that. It was fun. I slept on the couch. Fell asleep on the couch by accident.
That's funny. But this morning I had my first. So I actually signed up for a. I have a life coach now, or a leadership coach. Is what he is for just leaders in the work industry and whatnot. And we had our first call this morning. It was awesome. Like I've always said on this podcast, I think everybody needs a mentor or somebody in their life, and I knew it was that time in my life to go ahead and find a mentor that isn't part of my circle.
Yeah.
He's actually used to be my youth pastor back in the day. We reconnected. I haven't seen him in probably 7 years until we reconnected for a lunch one day. I knew he was launching this coaching course, and so I went ahead and bought it, and I highly suggested you find someone like him. His name's Tyler Wooten. You can still join his. It's called the Weekly, $97 a month. Not bad at all. And he's probably one of the best coaches I know, and he's faith-based, so I recommend him. He's motivational. He leads by example, and he truly cares about his people. You don't ever feel like you're bothering him when you talk to him. So
cool.
I might try to plug you in, actually.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be something I'd really be interested in. Me and Kayla are about to start. She gets done with her coaching in volleyball, so we're about to start doing the premarital counseling. So that's about to start taking up. I think we're doing like twice a week for like 8 weeks. We're doing that.
I remember those.
On the fun note, I think I told you we went to micro wrestling this past weekend.
Dwarf wrestling, midget wrestling.
That thing was so
How
much
was
fun.
it?
It was so much fun.
How in the world did y'all even find that?
Kaylee's friend, she's gone to a couple, and she took
a couple.
She's gone.
I feel like that's like a one-time thing.
No, she's gone to like 3 or 4. Kaylee's been to 2. This was her second one. This was my first time.
That doesn't shock me.
No, yeah, I know. But they just found it, and it was in Rockwall. So Kaylee was like, "Hey, I really want you to go with me to this," and I was like, "Dude, like I really don't want to go." And she was like, "Please, will you just go with me?" And I was like, "Okay, fine, whatever, I'll go." And then I ended up loving it, dude. It was so much fun.
That's hilarious.
There's a guy called the Chief. It was like the arrow. So we were, I felt like a kid.
They really call it micro wrestling now?
Yeah, it's micro wrestling.
That's the most PC label. Because growing up, it was definitely midget wrestling.
Yeah, I think that's just the organization. They travel like all throughout over the United States.
Super
cool.
Well, I know midget is not like a...
Yeah.
That's not the correct term anymore. It's dwarf.
I guess, yeah.
But I didn't know they called it micro wrestling. I thought they called it like dwarf wrestling.
No, they call it micro.
The only reason I know that is there's a guy who races midgets, race cars, like sprint cars. And he had a full speech over it saying him being called a midget doesn't bother him. But he said like in his community, it's a slang or is it derogatory? Is that how you say it? Derogatory. So nowadays you call them little people or dwarfs.
No, yeah,
So,
they call
a lot
him
of people
like
don't know that. Like it's
I didn't.
you'll be amazed on how many people get called out on that.
There was like 300 people there to watch him.
I have to ask, were there little people in the stands?
There were
Do they
two.
like support each
There were
other?
two.
Really?
Yeah, we saw two little people. It was crazy. So it was right there, and literally the parking was parked out. You couldn't park in their parking lot. You had to park on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Super fun.
awesome.
It was like a 4-hour event.
That's cool. Honestly, I like how they promote that and everything. Because obviously they're not able to compete in all the sports growing up and stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I think racing's so cool. I tell people that all the time. Like, literally, we have a little person racing, and it's like he dominates. Like he's one of the top 5 in the country.
Yeah, it's because he's light.
Well, there's a minimum
Cheater.
weight limit, but no, it's the fact that he's able to compete, and it doesn't matter size, anything, and it gave him that sense of ability to be involved in a sport and everything. So that's why racing's so cool. It doesn't matter if you're 300 pounds, 100 pounds, like racing, anyone can race. So that's what's cool about it.
Yeah. No, it is cool. Well, I want to go ahead and get into our topic today.
Yeah. Zane picked this one, so I'll let him kind of lead the ship, and then I have some talking points here because he made me actually have to think about my relationship in this podcast.
Thank you. I want to go in, and this is something that me and Kaylee have been struggling, and I always feel like when we do these podcasts together and we go back and forth, we always end up helping each other in one way or another. Whether it being something that we're struggling with, or we didn't even know was a struggle, and we talk about it, and we look back at our relationships with your wife, my fiance, and we're just like, oh crap.
Yeah, well, I got to comment on that real quick before we get too serious. So I was going through my wife's phone for some reason. You know, we have an open phone policy, and her phone rang, so I opened her messages, and I saw her and Kaylee during our last episode, and they were literally talking crap about us mid-episode, saying these BSers. It was pretty rude. They said whatever. I guess we said something, and they did not agree. So to all the wives out there, you should be supporting your husband in his podcast and not being a hater. So
that's hilarious.
But yeah, I caught him. It was literally like Kaylee said, like these BSers, they're lying or something.
Oh man, well, we gotta love her.
It was funny. Camry agreed. So
that was rude.
It's all right. I'm telling you, next podcast, Kaylee's not getting out of it. We're gonna interview Camry and Kaylee.
Yeah, we'll just let them do a podcast.
Yeah,
I think that'd be great.
Yep.
Yeah, Camber, you're up.
You're up.
You and Camber are up next, or you, Kaylee, are up next.
We'll probably get more views.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I had to add that since you said.
But going into this now, getting back into it, there's times where Kaylee feels like she's unheard in our relationship, and lots of times we can bring it all the way back to kind of what this whole podcast is about is work-life balance. And we're constantly going back and forth. You're constantly working on your projects that you have going on. I'm constantly working on mine. We both have hobbies that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it goes into the relationship, something that I've had to really reflect on, it's been this last week that I've really been reflecting on and looking into it, because we had a long conversation. I mean, this past 2 weeks has been pretty rough with me and Kaylee as far as communicating with each other.
Well, you're gonna find out the closer you get to your wedding, you start having thoughts, and you're like, I probably should talk about this before we get married. So you're gonna find out, because you start thinking like, what if I get married and we disagree on this, and it's just a bomb?
Yeah. So
me and Cameron went through that same stage.
Yeah, I guess that's the stage that we're looking at, and I'm a person that's very, I mean, you know, most guys are. You're a person that just wants to try to fix things and not go back and actually communicate, full talk, have a full blown on conversation, and kind of dissect the problem together. And so that's what I want to kind of talk about today, is making sure that when your significant other tells you something, ways to help them know that they've been heard, not only by words, but also by action.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
No, I understand. Completely.
Yeah.
Now I do. When you first told me about this episode, I was like, Let me think about this one because it's hard. But no, I get where you're coming from. And I have some actually good. Once I did some research, I got some good
Yeah.
topics to talk about.
I'd love to see what your first one is.
So one thing, and it's not just my relationship, but it's also what I've learned in the workplace or just in relationships in general in my life or professionally is anytime somebody says how they're feeling or they have a comment, I usually ask a question back and like, but I'll repeat what they're saying. So I'll be like, so what I'm hearing you say is, and I repeat their question, and then I'll ask them, is that right or is that correct? And then they'll re-explain themselves, and then I kind of hint on it. So it's more like instead of attacking them or they feel like you're being defensive, it's like, so I acknowledge what you're saying. This is what I heard. Is that right? And they say yes. Then you can kind of give your opinion on it.
Yeah.
Instead of just automatically saying, this is what I think. And that's actually helped me a ton, especially in the workplace. In my marriage, I'm still working on that. It's a little different. It's more of a personal connection. But that is something that you have to ask yourself, or it helps to know and acknowledge what they said and repeat it. And that way, for one, it shows them that you are active listening if you repeat the whole thing. And two, it actually gives you a little bit, once you repeat it yourself, you actually digest it better.
Yeah, I guess one of mine that I've really been trying to do, and it kind of all ties together. Tell me if I'm wrong. Asking more questions after it to really understand what they're saying or what they're trying to express. I mean, we both know it. We don't think the same. You and Cambry don't think the same.
Not at
Me
all.
and Kaylee don't think the same. We have two totally different type of mindsets on how we take in emotional, how we take in anything in emotional.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, and so that's something that I've been working on this week after everything that me and her have kind of been going through is really trying to get clarification within her question or within her feelings that she's feeling to see ways that I could possibly change and be better for her because at the end of the day, that's what we're both trying to do, right?
Have you ever asked her? I do this with Cambria. I don't know if she notices it. It's really not fair that she's in the room when we have these podcasts because she probably is like, this is so not true. But I feel like that I do a good job by asking her what makes her feel that way or why are you feeling that way? You ever ask Kaylee that? Or what made you... I guess what I get is I'll say stuff to Cambria and she'll have like a complete absurd, not like answer but reaction. I'm like, whoa, like what made you get to this point is what I'm asking then. Like, that was not my intentions.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What did I say or do that caused you to think that that was my intentions to make you feel that way? Do you ever ask her that? So automatically puts you on like, no, I hear your feelings. What did I do wrong to get you there?
No, I really haven't. No, to be honest with you, I think more. I finish her question, and I try to come back to. With me, you have to give me examples. That's how I process things.
I get that. Now that you say that,
yeah.
Every time I try to tell you, every time I mention something, you tell me, give me an example.
No, yeah,
That makes sense.
I need examples. Like so. I need analogies told to me to be able to better understand exactly what you're trying to do.
That
and
makes
so
sense.
when I ask her those, I'm like, give me an example. Tell me when. And so I can see where it kind of stems from.
Yeah, see, I'm the opposite. Because if I ask Cambria to give me an example, she starts listing like 10 of them. I feel like she's just like attacking me.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to hear stuff I did wrong in the past. I just want to know what I can fix now. And then I'll reflect on like, oh crap, I did that last week. But as soon as she starts like listing the past, that's when the holes go in the wall. So we try to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, no, I think it's
in the younger years of our marriage. You'll just have a laundry list of things I've done wrong.
Yeah, and that's part of growing, I think, too. And to me personally, that's just how I take it in.
Yeah.
I can't have, I guess, the way that she sees things in her eyes, it's hard for me to kind of see it from her point of view.
Yeah.
Just because we think from totally different spaces. And so,
Why do you think that is?
why do you think that is?
That y'all think from like I feel like me and Cambria think from we have different perspectives, but as far as like the gap, I feel like it's not that far.
Um, I think it was just the way we were both raised as kids.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, you know, just by the way our parents raised us. My parents, and you can ask anyone this, and I mean, y'all said it earlier before the show, like, dang, that was sharp.
Yeah.
Like that, what I said with my words, it didn't beat around the bush.
Yeah, that's probably what you're probably right. That's probably why me and Cambria are closer because both of our side of the parents kind of just tell you what it is.
Yeah, and so that's what. Not that Kaylee's parents didn't do that.
Yeah.
But I tell her all the time, hey, we need to. You don't have to be super sharp with your words, but you can be. If you don't speak up and say what you want, in my family, you won't.
Yeah.
You won't be able to get a word out. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I get it. Cambria's been bullied by my sisters before until she learned that. So
Yeah.
They get along great now, but she just learned to just, keep up with them.
Exactly. And then so that's where I have to try to bounce back when we're in our arguments. Not so much to be not as sharp with my words, but to word them into a way that where they don't come off as harsh.
Yeah.
Because I can be told something harsh and I'm like, okay, cool, thanks. Versus other people, if they're told something harsh, it may take them a minute to process and it could hurt their feelings.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I have to do with Kaylee constantly. I have to make sure that not only do I not speak with such harshness, and I'm able to kind of round that out, be more, I have to be more loving with my words and the way I put them.
Yeah.
And then that kind of leads into going into my second point with something that I've been working on and something I've been doing. I think we both struggle with this. I told you this at the beginning of the podcast. Letting the other person finish.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to interrupt you about 98% of the time.
You interrupt me 98% of the time on this podcast.
I can't help it. When I have a thought, when I catch a thought, as Stephen Furtick says, I just spit it out.
Yeah. And that's,
I know it's wrong.
That's where this thing is, to where I told you, just cross your fingers when you have a thought.
I'll forget the thought.
No, you won't. You cross your fingers. I promise you won't forget the thought.
And it's like I'm more like an antsy, like I want.
You want to tell him. You want to say it. You want to say
my
it.
wisdom.
Oh my god.
That's why when I do Zoom calls, I mute all y'all. Y'all can't talk.
You're annoying. But that's one of the things that I've gotten. Actually, you could ask her. I'm night and day from the very beginning of our relationship to now.
Yeah.
Is actually letting her finish her sentence, and I always count to 3 when she's done speaking. I go 1, 2, 3. Okay, then I can talk because the pause is long enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because before she would just take a breath and I would just cut her off and not let her finish her sentence, and that would make her feel like, dude, you're cutting me off. Why are you talking? You're cutting me off.
Yeah.
And so that would lead to bigger arguments that didn't really necessarily get to that point.
No, I agree
that didn't need to get to that point.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've really been working on to make sure that we can both air out, get out what we need to get out. And now she's gotten to a point where she'll tell me, hey, you're cutting me off, stop.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to calm down.
No, I get that. No, I totally get that. And it kind of just comes to, so as we were preparing for this show, it's had me thinking, and I wrote down a couple things, but I love acronyms.
Okay.
So like, when you put like make words and like phrases.
Yeah.
And I thought of the laser method.
The laser method.
So it's listen actively.
Okay.
Acknowledge their feelings.
Okay.
Show empathy.
Okay.
Express your own feelings. And reflect back.
Okay.
So when you told me this subject, that's what I thought of.
Laser.
The laser method.
The laser method. You want to go a little bit more in depth on which one?
Yeah. So give your full attention when your partner is speaking. Avoid distractions. Maintain eye contact and nod or make appropriate noises to show you're engaged. That's the L in laser Listen actively.
Okay.
Acknowledge their feelings, like I talked about before. Recognize their emotions by saying things like, it sounds like you're really frustrated, or I can see why that would make you happy. It's important to name the emotions you perceive they're feeling. So
Yeah.
kind of like asking, like, I hear what this is what you're saying. Is this why? And if they say yes or no, then you can kind of dive further into the conversation. Show empathy. Try to put yourself in their shoes and understand their perspective. Express empathy by saying things like, I can imagine how that must feel, or that sounds really challenging. So it just shows them that you do care. You're putting yourself in their shoes. And it's automatically defense. Kind of like we talked on 2 episodes ago, how when you're a marriage should never be offense or defense.
Yeah.
Just on the same playing field.
Yeah.
So, and then express your own feelings, share your thoughts and feelings about the situation in a calm and respectful manner. That's probably my biggest learning curve in marriage.
Okay.
Is not calm, but just when I share my feelings, it's they get kind of emotional,
You get a little pumped.
a little pumped.
You get a little bit of juice in you. I've been here. I've seen it.
So that's my biggest learning curve. I'm still learning that one. And then the R is reflect back, kind of just paraphrase what you've said, what you've heard, and figure out where you need to go and what the game plan is.
Yeah.
So the laser method, highly suggest it.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. And that the last one, it kind of goes on to my third point, is reflect back after a week. And, I've had that conversation and you really want to show that, you're really trying to give those efforts, really wanting to make those strides to better, stride in your actual relationship.
Yeah.
Reflect and ask him, hey, we had this conversation. Have I been doing better at this? And what ways can I possibly get better at it for you in this time?
No, I agree with that. I've actually been listening to I think it's a podcast. Maybe I might have saw it on Instagram, and it said basically every time at night the husband just needs to ask, "How have I done today? How have I done this week?"
Yeah.
And most people are gonna be like, "You don't need to ask your wife that. Like that's just asking for trouble." But no, it's honest. Like we get so busy with our day. Same with the wives. The wives just ask the same thing. But we get so busy with our days with kids, work, family, hobbies, anything, everything, you name it. And all it takes is, hey, how have I been? And if you can't have that honest conversation, you need to reflect on your marriage for one, or your partnership that you're about to be married, your fiance. If that conversation triggers you, then there's some areas of concern, and y'all need to figure it out because you shouldn't always just be triggered by hard conversations.
Yeah. And that's I think that looks back into relationships because I've always been told by everyone, any customer that I've talked to, those customers that have been together, those people that I talked to that have been together for 20, 40 years.
Oh yeah.
I always ask them, hey, what's something that I can do? And they say, no, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. Marriage is not easy.
And so that's something I constantly that I keep in my mind. Hey, this is not going to be easy. Yeah. Being able to have those tough conversations that me and her, I've had some, but we still got to have a lot more. And I think that's the beauty in it, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and it's fun. It's a challenge to grow together every single day, and know that neither one of you is perfect. Luckily, for the Lord's grace and mercy in your life, like we fall short every single day. Probably me way more than Cambria, but no, like that's exactly what marriage is supposed to be. It's an art, and you're constantly working on it every single day. And the people that give up on it is usually the ones where someone got selfish and ended up ruining the whole marriage. And I mean, it's till death do us part for a reason because you're either gonna die or you're gonna stay married.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not easy, and we've talked about this before on the podcast as well. It's just a shame that people celebrate divorce now, like they're having parties over it, and it's a sad, horrific thing that our kids and your future kids, my kids, have to see stuff like that on social media where most of the time females, men have always celebrated it. It's like a known thing, like freedom. But they don't like post it on it's mostly females who are just posting on social media and having these parties, and
Yeah.
it's just sad.
Yeah, no,
That's what my daughter has to look at.
I think going back to what we were talking about, I think it's important that both sides of the relationship make sure that they can be heard.
Yeah.
And it's something you'll work on every day. Justin's still working on it. Cambria, Kaylee, me, we're all still working on it, on making sure at the end of the day, no one's going to be perfect in how they do this.
Yeah, I agree.
But making sure to find your points and that work in your relationship to where y'all can make sure to strive to be the best y'all can in y'all's relationship. So ultimately that relationship can thrive and become beautiful.
Yeah.
In its own way. Not every relationship's going to look the same. I can't take all the pointers that he gets to have with Cambria because it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's 'cause he married a white calm girl.
Calm?
Yeah, I married a Latina. Totally different.
No, but I
Feisty.
I think it's great. I think it's great to make sure that we keep each other accountable too, though.
Yeah.
So
No, I love it. No, we definitely do. You definitely have. I don't know. I was telling someone the other day where we have definitely. You're probably the closest person in my life now, like as a male figure, as a friend, best friend. And I would have never thought that when I met you when you were 19 years old, and now you're probably my closest person. So it's crazy how you grow, and the Lord just puts people in your place in seasons where I feel like we've mutually have grown off each other.
Yeah.
And it's been a great thing.
Right.
And where we start this podcast literally right before you get married. So I feel like that's not even that's just the Lord right there. And then we started when I have a third kid, so my season's getting harder.
Yeah.
So it's like it's funny how the Lord works, but yeah,
it's awesome. Well,
who would have thought we'd be this close after we got in a fight in the
I was
streets playing
I was
basketball?
gonna whoop you. I was gonna whoop your butt. So just be glad.
Zane was playing middle linebacker on the basketball court.
I don't know what he's talking about. No,
Cambria's yelling at us, telling us to stop. We're gonna get in a fight. Yeah, it was funny.
But that's all I got, man. I think it's just make sure that your person feels heard. Really try to understand it. Reflect on yourself. Ask them if you've been actually working on those things. If they feel like you've worked on those things, because at the end of the day, I mean, you want your partner to feel loved. You want them to feel heard, and so ultimately, your relationship just grows together.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. And make sure you always use the laser method. If you want to know more about the laser method, I'll actually be posting stuff on my Instagram.
Subscribe.
So subscribe to it, behind the scenes,
or Cambria
exclusive content. And also check out 19supply.com. It's the #1 stop for home service industries, for tools, and just great gifts and gadgets for their technicians. So check it out. It is password protected, so you have to email the owner, and he'll give you a special password just for you. But great prices, great results, and your technicians will be happy.
I use it.